Hello, and welcome to another episode of playing Crusader Kings 3 using the hardest possible rule set. We are playing as the Holy Roman Empire after starting as the Duke of Bohemia, the Premsolid dynasty. You can see here we're quite advanced. I do think we're much closer to the end of our series here than the beginning. As I talked about in the very first episode, one of the reasons I enjoy playing this rule set is because of the challenge. And when the challenge goes away, then I often think it's time for me to move on to play another campaign. We talked about earlier that I think of the win condition as being the most powerful ruler in the land with no dispute, where no one else could possibly challenge me. I do think we're getting quite close to that point. You see that we have almost 100,000 troops, including very large numbers of men-at-arms. We have very healthy treasury, and a very high monthly income, and generally just looking quite strong at the moment. We do have some new challengers in terms of a new Scourge conqueror here in Vladimir. So he's someone that we could take a look into attacking. You see his military is considered inferior to ours. I'm very skeptical he would be able to beat us. But one of the fun parts of these runs is after spending all this time building up our power and slowly and incrementally increasing the size of our realm, now we get to have some fun by beating up on the Scourge conquerors. So I rarely pass up an opportunity to do that. You see this guy here is also starting to get closer to our territory. We'd probably actually prefer if he took more of the Byzantine territory, as then we could attack him using holy wars and take Byzantine territory we need to restore the Roman Empire that way, instead of the more difficult course of buying claims on the various territories we need in the Byzantine Empire. We are very close to establishing it by the sword here, which of course gives unlimited kingdom level holy wars, very powerful for conquest. We did not take it earlier in the game because we were largely surrounded by Christians, and also we were simply not powerful enough to use it against the Cuman Empire, which had occupied most of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. I'm somewhat sad to see that it has gone. The Cuman Empire shaped so much of our decision making early on in terms of becoming independent from the original Holy Roman Empire, becoming their tributary, and really everything we did was shaped by their ominous presence to our east. But they were taken over by a minor, which caused them to lose the Scourge Conqueror trait. We were able to attack them and take Poland from them. After that, their empire just completely collapsed. So it does seem like Vladimir is rising in its ashes. See that this person is Tingri, the traditional steppe faith, and is a fairly interesting culture. So we'll probably take a whack at him as he gets closer. Until then, we're really looking to just continue our conquest. Our succession is a bit unsettled. We have this very good female heir who's currently our designated heir. We were hoping that she would produce a child capable of taking the strong blood decision, but at least so far she has not. You can see she's getting a bit older. I think my plan is to land this guy with the next territory we take. Landed rulers produce more children, generally speaking, than unlanded, and so that would cause him to have some more children, and thus also my daughter. And hopefully she'll have one that can satisfy the strong blood decision. You saw earlier that we're 6 months away from by the sword, so I think instead of attacking anyone now, let's go on a pilgrimage, get some more piety, and when we come back, I think we should have the by the sword tradition, and we will begin using that to conquer the people next to us. Looks like we have not visited Rome, Vaticano yet, so let's go there. Because we're going over the Alps, and the Alps are dangerous, we will hire some mountaineers. Go with max fidelity and pomp, because we want as much piety as possible. Particularly later on, we have to buy claims against other Christian rulers to get the territory we need to restore the Roman Empire. So this is an interesting one. We talked about our character is 57, so quite old. He's currently betrothed to a 13-year-old who is beautiful. We're a genius, so the hope here would be that we could get a child that is both genius and beautiful, perhaps make that younger child our heir. Really depends on just how many children we'll have with her and what stats they will have. So I think I will take the risk here, even with the stress gain of trying to get that medium health boost. And it did in fact work, so hopefully we will continue to live and be healthy. You can see now, even though we're 57, we are in good health, so that is fits in with our plans. Again, we want more piety and to have our pilgrimage be more pious. So this is obviously a very unfortunate event. There is a, it's not unacceptably a high risk that we die, and we've talked about that I'd rather have a better, more certain succession here. I mean, we could simply take the risk, and then we'll be playing as our daughter, and we'll sort of be rolling the dice on whether she'll be able to have an heir that can satisfy the strong blood decision. My general approach to these games on the hardest rule set is to be as conservative as possible, take decisions that don't expose me to unnecessary risk, and certainly having my character die would be a big risk. On the flip side, there's something to be said to moving on to her. She does still have 8 more years, but she could have children. She still is married to a Herculean man who is also lustful, even though he's rather old. So it's possible she would have another 3 to 4 children in that time, hopefully one of which would satisfy the strong blood decision. So it's really sort of a tough question here of whether we want to move on from him or not. So, I mean, I think we're almost at the point where, again, we talked about, I think we are the most powerful realm in the land. I almost want to roll the dice, but I guess not enough to actually do it. So we'll just take this huge stress hit and move on. We'll contemplate ancient face for the piety. Normally just take this top option here for piety, prestige, make the pilgrimage more pious. Check out this inspiration. Seems like with the last patch you get a lot of people that want to make bows for you. Generally, they're not going to be better than the weapon we already have. Who is this? So obviously this is a great-grandchild, so rather far removed from... Yeah, so it's another child of one of our sons who has had number of children that satisfy the requirements for strong blood. The problem is that he's educated in diplomacy, which it's an okay lifestyle, but I would much rather prefer to have a military lifestyle at this point. And more importantly, his education level was terrible. He only has a 2-star education. If he was a 4-star diplomat, I'd very likely go with him. Or for that matter, if we were playing 6 months ago, where domain limit was determined by stewardship rather than education, I'd probably also go with him. But under the rules that we're playing, if we were to start as him, we'd probably only be able to hold, or at least we'd probably only have domain limit, I think, of like 2 counties, which mean we need to give some away, or otherwise really take some action immediately to try to fix that, because obviously with a domain limit of 2, we're trying to hold 7, we'll be at negative 100% penalty for being over the domain limit. And so that's the reason why this guy is not our heir, and is apparently instead our jester. So this, this is obviously a grandson with excellent stats. Let's see if there are any fecund young women around. There are not. I think we'll just leave him unmarried for now then. Continue on. So this kind of goes to the dilemma we've had for a while now. We have 2 children, one of which is highly qualified herself, but has not had the grandchildren we want, and then another potential heir who is not very good on his own, but who has had many of the children with the kind of genetic traits that we want. So then the question becomes, which one do we get? And that's still the question. This guy's not good enough to spend hundreds of gold on. See that we just got trebuchets. And so we will delete our 1 stack of siege equipment, replace it. As talked about before, at this level of the game, I usually only have 1 stack of siege equipment, and I'm really relying on being a martial character with engineered for destruction and sappers, and also exalted warlord to speed up my sieges. I think, as if you would have seen last episode, we do in fact siege very quickly, even with just 1 stack of siege engines. If I were playing on normal, then of course probably have 4 or 5 stacks of siege engines, since the AI is much less effective at combat than it is on this set of rules. Had a friend die, so now I have gone to maximum stress level. No real choice but to relieve that through being athletic. You'll definitely take this option to reduce stress, and because if we go to the tavern keeper just tries to steal money from you. Here we have 2 children with a combination of very good stats. Usually I just take the middle here for the piety. Let's take the top one for the piety again. Both options are good. I've lost a lot of stress very quickly. It's got the learning perk, so now we do have sanctioned loopholes. So we really want to start looking into what we need to get from the Byzantines to form or to restore the Roman Empire. This is the son of the daughter that is currently our designated heir. Let's see if we can give him one more trait. As you can tell here, he has very good physical and beauty traits, but unfortunately he does not have any trait of intelligence. If he did, I'd be much happier with our daughter, who is our current heir. Guess we will go with this for more piety. We had one of our older daughters, who is not our heir, get the great pox. No idea what she and or her husband have been doing. We should have, you see, I missed it, but we do have by the sword now. By the sword obviously does have some significant penalties in terms of lower diplomacy, lower piety. So, especially at this level, it's not a decision you want to take lightly as to when you get by the sword. You really want to wait until you can make good use of it. Before this point, it really would not have benefited us, and we would have just had to absorb those quite significant penalties in terms of lost diplomacy and loss of piety. But now we will start using our kingdom level holy wars on an unlimited basis. This is someone we attacked earlier and took part of his realm. We'll now see if we can take all of his realm. Obviously, you see that he is a scourge conqueror. And I'm attacking him partly because, again, I like attacking scourge conquerors. But also it helps a little bit in terms of getting more of the Byzantine Empire. The de jure territory of the Byzantine Empire, to be specific, which helps us in getting the territory we need to restore the Roman Empire, which is our next major goal, assuming we don't get to a point where I just feel that we're so powerful that we can conclude the game without restoring the Roman Empire. Hopefully I catch some of his army, which I did. One of the things I regret looking back on my videos is that the first time that we fought a scourge conqueror, which was the scourge conqueror of Novgorod, who had come over to northern Germany and was attacking us for Germany, I didn't look at the battles and show them to you. So here, we can take a look. This is not yet the scourge conqueror himself defending, but you can tell that we have just a very significant advantage now. I would note that the scourge conquerors, they get plus 10 advantage from the fact we're playing on very hard, and then they get another plus 25 from being a scourge conqueror. So if the scourge conqueror does show up in this battle, we'll basically have around an even advantage, even though you can see I have a 67, which is just massive in general terms. This is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to attack scourge conquerors early, is you'll almost always be at a disadvantage in fighting them, and you really have to make that up by having higher quality men-at-arms. And having higher quality knights generally won't work because your knights get a very significant penalty. I think it's 50% reduced effectiveness because we are playing on very hard. Let's go attack him again if we can catch him. Maybe we will. One perk whose importance you should not underrate is living off the land right here. The plus 200 supply capacity is just amazing. Partly it's amazing for convenience. You can keep your entire army together for longer, not have to split them all up and worry about supply. But also you will see that the AI in general, it seems like Scourge Conquerors in particular, will split up their army to keep within supply limits. And that means you can often look at attacking a smaller part of their army, getting the battle underway, killing many of their soldiers before their army, for their entire army is able to arrive at the battle. And so what happens is you end up being able to kill off their entire army piecemeal. So for this decision, I generally do not take exiles of other faiths, because if you take exiles of other faiths, that changes the religion of the counties they come to. But I do take exiles of my own faith since it increases development. Obviously, there's a control decrease, but that lasts for a relatively small period of time. The temples, at least in Christianity, will increase your control. And so we will go with this top option here. See, we quickly won some battles, and you can also see here how quickly we siege down castles. Even with only the one stack of siege equipment, because we have all those bonuses in the martial tree that make our sieging faster, and we are an exalted warlord, which has its own bonuses for sieging. What else do we need here? Maybe that city? Normally you only have to conquer the castles in a barony. Sorry. You only have to conquer only the castles in a county to take over the county completely. At least for that county, it looks like we have to conquer every single barony. You can see there a bit of what I was talking about in terms of the AI feeding in its army piecemeal. Obviously, it resulted in him getting destroyed there. I think, as we talked about earlier, we really want this character to live as long as possible, marry his quite young bride, and see if they can have some children that will better advance our goal of getting the strong blood decision. Strong blood is just very powerful because after that happens, you take the decision. Basically means that all your children are going to have incredible genetic traits and just be much more powerful rulers, much better equipped to take on Scourge Conquerors. Hesitating here because I was thinking about giving Moesia to my heir's husband, but my concern is that we are well above the 160 county limit. That means other rulers can attack our vassals. So even if I install my daughter's husband as the Duke of Moesia, this Scourge Conqueror could decide to attack just that duchy, and I would not be able to intervene. He could take the duchy, and in the worst case, end up killing my daughter. So, but we can't take this tiny duchy up here. What we will do is create this duchy. Any duchy works. Then we will give this older gentleman who's married to our daughter this duchy. Hopefully that will increase the number of children they have. Also ask him to convert. We have lost some court positions. Let's fix that. We have one courtier is no longer really able to fulfill his position. Okay. Then for Malaysia, we want to give it to someone with a very high education. Ideally, even a 5-star education, but I assume no one has that. Instead, give it to his grandson. We have a few other territories here. Now we are back within our domain limit. And so next target, reduce our stress a bit. Obviously, want to marry her to someone who is beautiful, since she has genius and robust. Matrilineal marriage, so that's what we will do. Just check up here on the tips to see if there's anything we want to address. Don't really think so. Now I am curious if I can wage a holy war here, and I can. It's the only one of their kingdoms I can get by a kingdom level holy war. But again, partly I want to do this to get more land within the de jure realm of the Byzantines and perhaps usurp that title to make restoring the Roman Empire easier. But I'm also doing this just because I like attacking scourge conquerors. This guy looks very powerful. Let's see how things go. And obviously I have, partly the reason I'm doing this is because I have tons of gold. If things do go wrong, if I lose a battle against him, which I think is unlikely but could happen, then I will simply hire a bunch of mercenaries and regroup. I think we need to hire or raise every single levy. These troops should be more than sufficient. As I was talking about earlier, you can see that I have a vassal being attacked by someone in the Byzantine Empire. I can't do anything about that because of the size of my realm. I think if their war goes on for 3 years, then I get to intervene, but most wars don't last that long. Just checking there to see if any of my vassals were in fact involved in wars where I could intervene. So, more bows. And I should say, in addition to getting this territory within the de jure limits of the Byzantine Empire and also being fun, attacking Scourge Conquerors is also very useful in the long run, in that if a Scourge Conqueror takes 3 defeats in wars, loses 3 wars, they didn't lose the Scourge Conqueror trait, which makes life much easier for you, makes life easier for your heirs. I talked before that I generally do not commit adultery because I don't want to have a secret. Also don't want to have it exposed and lose a level of devotion. We will search for a physician because normally that yields a physician whose aptitude is better than average, such as here. We already have our physician on advanced research to give us more. Okay. So I'm hesitating here because we could go with a grand wedding. That obviously requires me to leave the army. That would put my brother in charge. You can see he is quite good. He has an advantage of 57 himself, not quite as high as mine. He will siege even faster than I will. He has great army movement speed. I mean, really, his commander traits are better than mine. We would lose him as a knight, which is, he's obviously an amazing knight as well. I think because of my desire to get an heir that I'm really satisfied with, we're going to take this risk. Talked earlier about how generally at this level of difficulty I don't like taking risk, but at this point, as talked about before, I do not think my brother will lose to this Scourge Conqueror, and even if he does lose, all that's going to happen is I will use our massive treasury to hire a whole bunch of mercenaries and then go back and attack all Wahhabid here. And of course, as soon as I remove myself, his armies show up. Let's go greet them. Hopefully our brother will be able to handle himself here. I think he will. Okay. So this is not the Scourge Conqueror. He's getting these benefits from, defending a river crossing, so arguably a little bit of our fault. He has hunting towers, and then their commander just has a whole bunch of the martial perks. But obviously we have a much larger army, much better men-at-arms, and he has no chance of winning. We will stack wipe him, and then whenever the rest of our opponent's armies show up, they will obviously be smaller and even more susceptible to us crushing them. And you can see our brother here, he is not an exalted warlord, so he doesn't have the siege time benefits that trait, but because he does have the military engineer commander trait, he does siege very quickly. Of course, one could say in some sense this is a flex on Al-Wahhabid, and that my ruler is so confident in the strength of his armies that he is able to defeat a scourge conqueror that he doesn't even descend himself. He just sends one of his subordinates out here to command the army. See, I believe when we attacked him, he may have been at war with someone. See, he is no longer at war. He does have a ton of troops, but we are not seeing them. Sometimes in a war with a scourge conqueror, if it's going well, I will intentionally not end the war when we hit 100% if I think I can either stack wipe his army or inflict very significant losses on the army. And the idea that that might make factions easier to rise, might make him susceptible to other people attacking him, and generally just make his life worse and increase the chances that he absorbs another defeat. That causes him to become closer to losing the Scourge Conqueror trait. So both of these are good. I guess will be nice. We'll now try to go all the way down the whole body tree. We see some of his army there. Because we have Peacemaker, we could end the war now, but let's continue. Here, just what the highest percentage chance, which is that one. Even though the Pope has 100 opinion of us, still good to have a high opinion with the Pope. Don't want a rival. We'll take this first option despite the stress. We'll lose stress. So that's good. Someday I will find out what happens when you say I don't in a grand wedding. That will not be today. Obviously we want to be friends with our wife. Still not sure where this guy's armies are. Assume we're at 0 stress. Yep. See if we can catch these guys. If not, we'll just call the war. Need to have the diplomacy trait. Leave that. So the real options here are thoughtful, which obviously is just an incredibly powerful perk in managing rebellious vassals. The other option is to go down and get groomed to rule. Our vassals are not very rebellious, and particularly because we've been ruler for such a long time. So we will go try to get groomed to rule. Again here, it's good to be friendly with the Pope, so we'll do that. And also end this war. This will cause us to get several rivals, but we have the Spy Master and various court positions to limit their ability to murder us. We also have redoubled guards on, so we should be okay. counties. We can give this to someone with developing poor education. Same for these 2 counties. And we'll save people with good educations for duchies that have more counties in them. Of course, one Herdibury, someone Herculean. He looks good. I think we will make that actually a standard marriage, since it's to one of family members. Here, same thing. Let's become friends with the Pope. Presumably will become even more important when next DLC comes out with its development of the Christian religion. And again here, okay, so that third is really what we're looking for, so we will certainly do that. So in terms of getting a centralized bureaucracy, certainly something I'm going to consider. My concern is that you can lose control of things or have parts of your realm split apart because of acclamation succession. See, we're in the year 1195. We are very close to reaching the late medieval ages. When we do that, what I will very likely do is rush primogeniture. Bit odd, I can research that now. I wonder when that happened. In any event, we'll continue focusing on what we're already researching, which I'm pretty sure is windmills. And then once we get primogeniture, that's the other option in administrative government besides acclamation. And so once we get primogeniture, switch to that, we'll then be going with a administrative government. I think we'll go with the bottom one for the piety. You can see some of the benefits that we get here and that our guests received. Just wanted to check. I mean, she's already our soulmate, so we can't do either of those. We'll just hope for children with very strong genetic traits. Still have all these Tengri rulers from when Cumans had their massive empire. One thing I did want to look at was changing, probably won't do it with every vassal, but at least some of my most powerful vassals want to go to the scutage contract. As you see, that increases their tax levels, meaning I get more gold, which makes me happy, since gold is very powerful, even though we are at the stage where we have a very large amount of gold and are continuing to make significant amounts of gold. We can always use more gold. If there's a major rebellion or something of the nature, we could easily be hiring mercenaries that are 4,000 a pop, and that will very quickly take away even our 90,000 gold reserves. This guy is a very favorable contract. It's somewhat surprising, but surprising because he is someone who has been our vassal for a very long time. Indeed, I think we've had Nordgau longer than any territory other than those that were inside the Kingdom of Bohemia. And frequently we do grand tours, and usually grand tours have options to increase your vassal's obligations, and yet Nordgau has very favorable obligations. This poor guy, of course, has awful obligations from his perspective, but quite good obligations from our perspective, assuming they don't drive him to rebel against us. Okay, I think we've modified maybe the contracts. If we really need more gold, we can go back and continue doing that. For now, what I think we want to do is we don't control any of the lands we need to restore the Roman Empire. That is surprising as well as unfortunate. Just looking here at what we need to take from Byzantines. It's really Thrace, Croatia, and Thessalonica. If you have mystical ancestors, which gives you renown for landing house members, then the more expensive and also more tedious idea is to go county by county and buy claims in every single county, That way you will get all those claims when you win the war, and you can hand them out to your house members. But we do not have mystical ancestors. There is some concern here that we're going to be soon taking on a large number of Greek subjects, some of which could be quite powerful. They may look to rebel against us, but I think we will be okay. Some extra territories at each spot, partly to provide a buffer against opponents attacking my vassals. We've talked about this a couple of times now, about how, because of the size of our realm, foreign rulers can attack our vassals without me being able to intervene. To have some, effectively a buffer between those foreign rulers and the duchies I need to form or restore the Roman Empire. That said, I probably have overdone it, but we will be taking much of the Byzantines with this war. Also need some of the duchies in here. We'll get Spoleto separately. May need to go more pilgrimages, but not a big concern. Also, don't think there's any concern about attacking him. Do not believe he'll have any chance of defeating me. So we have some hostile armies attacking parts of my realm, but not the Byzantine army itself. Siege Constantinople as soon as possible. Of all our modifiers, you see here it's just 38 days. Not sure where. Okay, so this is something that the Scourge Conquerors do with some frequency. Often they even do it more quickly, which is if you conquer their territory, the war ends, they will sometimes immediately turn around, like within a month, and declare war on you to try to take back that very same territory. So not terribly surprising that he sees us fighting another war. He thinks this is his time. He has put together a genuinely massive army. See, he has 20,000 mercenaries there. The issue is he is getting quite old and has a number. He may literally have some version of every elder trait at this point. I guess not the clouded eyes one, but that's the least severe. So he has a number of modifiers that are going to be hurting his martial. You can see particularly their withering mind. So, looking forward to this fight. We'll see how it goes. And again, we have stalwart defender. No, I guess we don't have stalwart defenders anymore. We do still have standard fight. I feel very good about our chances here. So we will tell him to bring it on. Obviously, the only real concern is that we are currently attacking the Byzantines. We will need to move very quickly whenever Al-Wahhabite army shows up. Not a huge deal if we go away from the Byzantine Empire, take all the time to defeat the Al-Wahhabite Empire. The Byzantines, they may be able to restore some of the war score, but very unlikely that we would lose the entire war. So we see that our daughter's quite elderly husband just died. We will replace him with this gentleman, who again is Herculean. So they have the max, considered together, they have the max level of each of the 3 genetic traits. Sadly, that has not led to her having a child that is capable of a strong blood decision, but maybe with her new husband that will change. So still really looking here for the Al-Wahhabite army to show up. So we would assume it'll be showing up in Nicaea here, since that's what they're fighting for. Okay. So this is very lucky in a certain sense. So I have the genius trait. My current wife has the beautiful trait. So not too unexpected that we'd have a daughter who is beautiful and also who is intelligent. One step down from genius, but still good. Obviously, what's significant here is she's also hale. That means that she will be able to take the strong blood decision. So what that means is we definitely want to educate her ourselves. Send her to the university. We will unpin most of the other characters, maybe even all the other characters, just as ourselves and our daughter here. This is a bit risky, but given that when she becomes our ruler, she'll be able to take a strong blood decision, I think it's worth the risk. We will designate her as our heir. This is risky because you really don't want minors becoming your heirs on this level of difficulty. With the recent changes to domain limit, it seems like minors almost always have a domain limit of 3, and that's before this game rule -3 that we're playing on as part of the hardest possible rule set. So that means if we were to take over as her now, our domain limit would be 1. You could say 3 minus 3 is 0, which is true, but it seems like you could never go below a domain limit of 1. and that would mean that we would definitely have to give away some of our holdings, and also we'd have a very difficult time swaying or bribing all of our vassals sufficiently to prevent numerous different rebellions from breaking out. So we are taking a risk here, but I think the risk should be worth it. Hopefully our character does not get murdered or die during any of these battles, and he really shouldn't, but you never know. Okay, so you can see the Hobbit armies are arriving. We will now immediately go to face them. Of course, you can see that he sieges very quickly as well. Not very surprising, given that he is a Scourge Conqueror, and they have special bonuses to siege. Now let's see how this goes. Okay, I already defeated one of his armies. You can sort of see what we were talking about earlier. The AI, particularly Scourge Conquerors, like to split up their armies to maintain supply. And the problem with that is that they didn't feed in piecemeal into our army. And the particular concern you see here is that if I was fighting their ruler, he presumably would have a relatively high advantage simply because Scourge Conquerors get plus 25 advantage on their own. They get another plus 10 in leading their own armies from being on the very hard difficulty, so that's plus 35 right there. That would really close the gap. Because I'm able to attack just a smaller part of his army, the general of that army is nowhere near as good as me. This leads to this massive advantage in my favor, which means I'm just going to be stack wiping his army as it feeds into mine. And for that matter, maybe I was overstating what this particular Scourge Conqueror can do. Let's just take a look here. You can see under their advantage, what I was just talking about, very hard, plus 10, Scourge-of-the-gods, plus 25. But that really is not helping him. I mean, we are defending a river crossing, defending in the hills. You can see I have a number of different bonuses, so even against a Scourge Conqueror, I'm at plus 62. And so for those reasons, his decision to attack me looks very foolish in retrospect. And indeed, I must have captured him, or yes, I did capture him. So his war is now over. He'll definitely be enforcing demands. That is a massive amount of gold he has to pay me. Indeed, that is more gold than I thought the limit was. I once had a game where I defeated a Scourge Conqueror. I remembered I had Stalwart Defenders, which gives double the amount of gold from winning a defensive war. And I got 10,000 gold. And that caused me to assume that 10,000 gold was the cap. But apparently that assumption was incorrect, because I will be getting over 15,000 gold from this war. Also very likely means this will be the end of this guy's time as a Scourge Conqueror, or maybe not, because he actually has more than 15,000 gold. And as part of playing on these incredibly high difficulty levels, that the AI makes a lot of gold as a regular character, and Scourge Conquerors make even more. So he won't even go into debt with this, but it will be another loss on him. And again, if he has 3 losses in wars, he will lose the Scourge Conqueror trait, and we know he has had at least 2. As for me, I will go back to sieging down parts of the Byzantine Empire. Looks like the Byzantine army is arriving, which is convenient, because my guess is I will be able to defeat them and get enough war score to end this war. Which is in fact what happened. I think let's wipe out as much of their armies as possible, since for reasons best known to them, they are just going to feed themselves into me. I will keep their purple war banner. And I want to wipe out their armies because it makes factions, rebellions easier, possibly other foreign rulers of different religions attacking them easier, taking that land, and then in turn I would be able to use my Holy War CBs to take the land that someone else has taken from the Byzantines. Obviously, I won't be able to take land from the Byzantines for another 5 years unless I want to break the truce, which I generally do not do. And there are a lot of penalties to truce breaking. I'm sure you realize now I'm not someone who tries to accomplish all my goals in a single lifetime. Happy to play a number of different characters as we've done here. And so again, part of being conservative, I don't want to rush anything by breaking truces and getting all the penalties involved with that. And so, we'll wait out this truce and take whatever else we need from the Byzantines as necessary. One thing we obviously want to fix is now we have a truly enormous number of duchies. We will have to hand all those out. One thing I also want to look at is we did manage also to pick up an enormous number of counties. So this will take a while. In terms of Constantinople itself, it has one of the most powerful buildings in the game if you consider it to be a holy site. Unfortunately, Catholicism does not. And so for that reason, I don't plan on keeping Constantinople at this point in the game. Later on, if we continue playing and we reform our religion, what I will do is I will switch to Orthodoxy first, precisely because that will make Constantinople a holy site. Then I will proceed to reform the religion to whatever I want. And then I will take Constantinople back, some way or the other. Presumably it will be administrative then, so I may just be able to revoke it, or by holding the Byzantine Empire title, I would use that to reclaim Constantinople. But the point is that we do not need it right now. It doesn't really help us because the Hagia Sophia building is not active for us. So instead, we will be handing it out with all these other titles. The many, many titles that we have to hand out. I think at this point we can start giving our direct children some titles, since at this point don't plan for any of them to be our heirs except for our daughter, which is to say our very young daughter. When this is done, we'll have to go through all our court positions to see who we need to replace. See that we are now over our vassal limit. We have a very easy fix for that. it is a little bit concerning. It does mean we're getting closer to a point where we won't have fixes. And likely need to adopt a ministry of government. Ministry of governments have massive vassal limits, such to the point the vassal limit doesn't really matter. So the easy fix is we currently have this very nice crown. I think it's probably better than the Reichskrone here, but the Reichskrone has the obvious advantage of plus 25 vassal limit, and so we will just put it on, and we can somehow manage 25 more vassals. Let's see if our wife can have another child, just in case something happens with our amazing new daughter. Check to make sure there are no plagues near our capital. Okay, so let's see what titles we can create here. Number of kingdom titles. Generally speaking, I like to hold all the kingdom titles and just have dukes underneath me. But that does mean you'll hit your vassal limit relatively quickly, and at that point I switch over to administrative government, which we've talked about repeatedly here. Modify these contracts. I'm sure at this point you can guess what we're going to do. We'll modify them to make more gold. Can make another accolade, but last time I looked, not sure that we had something that I really thought was all that useful. At some point, I'm sure we'll take another look. I think we're not too far away from opening a House Paragon accolade, which is useful for more renown, among other things. So check our court positions here. Close we are to I wanted to see how close we were to usurping the Byzantine Empire. Don't seem to be able to do that, unfortunately. So instead, we'll check on how close we are to restoring the Roman Empire. So, I think now the main thing is really to get most of Italy under our control. I should have taken Ravinia from the Byzantines as well, but relatively minor mistake. We'll also have to take chunks of the papacy. Strangely, Venice does not have its duchy, so we'll have to buy claims on individual counties. We are starting to run a bit low on piety. It for our piety for now. Obviously, we'll be attacking Venice as our next target. Troops. Not sure where the... Okay. Bit odd that Venice's troops are all the way up there, but... Also a bit unfortunate. It cost 1,000 gold to siege down his capital. Travel expenses, but... They have the money to pay it. I think let's track down his army. Getting some stress from my friend dying, but not a huge deal. Discovered windmills, so we need another. Let's go with this regional one here. And even though it'll be quite expensive, let's start upgrading our buildings. Obviously, the point of the stewardship characters we were playing early in the game was that they can build buildings very cheaply, and they really helped set up everything that followed by all the buildings they constructed that gave us gold and improved our military. At this point, we'll just pay the full amount necessary to construct buildings. And again, obviously we want to continue down the medicine focus to stay alive, to educate our new daughter. It's a bit odd that Verona, who is one of our vassals, seems to have continued some kind of war with Venice, even as we're also attacking Venice. That's because I'm currently hostile to Verona. It's another war. Looks like we do have largely a peasant revolt. At least at the moment, it has enough power to generate discontent. See that now we are starting to run out of family members to give new land to. Pause our conquest for a little while to keep an eye on this potential rebellion. We can also, we'll see if getting the one vassal that's in the faction to drop causes the faction to go below the necessary military power. Probably want to take a pilgrimage anyway. We haven't gone to Jerusalem. I guess the question is, how many sites, points of interest do we want to hit on the way there? We already are at maximum martial lifestyle experience, so we don't want to hit any of those. But as for the rest, they could be useful. Our character is quite old. We do plan on playing him for at least 15 more years. Really try to get him to live long enough to educate his new daughter. So I guess let's take the long way and hit a lot of these sites, points of interest. Again, we'll be skipping the martial ones. That we're probably going to end up with another martial perk regardless, even though we can't use it. There are some CK3 players that really hate order gore. I personally hate unused perks, Wish there was a way just to delete them. They genuinely annoy me, but probably no option except to have an extra martial perk here. Go on this quite lengthy pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and then after that we will almost certainly go back to conquest, working on getting the territories necessary to restore the Roman Empire. Probably also will call this episode once we are done with this pilgrimage. So Spoleto wants to become our suzerain. I would really prefer if instead he became our vassal, since we do need some of his land. Fortunately, the issue really is this particular ruler just has a bunch of traits. I mean, literally all three of his traits are causing him not to want to become our vassal. I guess we could accept and think about if there's some way to increase the chances of vassalizing him. Obviously, one way would be to switch to a diplomatic lifestyle and get the perk that increases vassalization score, but don't know that we will live long enough to do that. Looks like this faction is still generating discontent, so it's big enough that I'm concerned I wouldn't want to fight other wars while that faction is stirring up. So part of the reason we're going on the pilgrimage is we'll just make use of our time here, getting more piety while we wait for that faction to fire and put it down, and avoid having to fight both the faction and an external war at the same time. This event is always good because it gives us Wise Man, which gives us learning as well as learning experience. So always worth getting. There's the Wise Man trait. See many of the points of interest that we're hitting here give learning experience, will help us get to healthy and whole body. Curious about our friends here. It seems like, yes, so presumably after we beat him, maybe he had another loss already. It seems like he lost the Scourge Conqueror trait. That then led to his death and realm splitting. So certainly we can attack some of these other areas that are inside the de jure borders of the Byzantine Empire and who are in many cases ruled by children, so they will be quite easy to conquer. One of our sons died of typhus. On the one hand, that's sad. On the other, there's a effective maximum to the number of living children you can have, and frankly the fact that he died makes it more likely that I will now have children with my new wife. This is expensive, but he is a very talented knight. Indeed, we've been talking about what we want to do in terms of another accolade knight, and I think having a besieger sounds good. Does mean later on we'll have to find another spot to be able to get a house paragon or some other knight, but we'll deal with that when we come to it. So obviously this guy has beauty and physical strength traits. I want to have him someone who is a genius, so he can have children that have all three. This guy, we want him to marry someone who's Herculean. And this guy, I guess just a combination. Could have him marry my player heir, but I think I'd rather save her for someone with better all-around traits. That does make me wonder, while we are talking about that, if there is someone. Okay. So we'll marry her to this kid who already has max traits and everything except being robust, so that sounds good to me. We'll make it matrilineal, so it probably doesn't matter. So you can see, and it's arguably a bit of irony that my daughter has finally given birth to two children, my grandchildren, both of whom could take the strengthen the bloodline decision. First option here for more gold. Anyway, my daughter, she does have children now who can take a strength of bloodline decision in case something goes wrong. Let's educate one of them, strictly this one, who has very good genetic traits. I can't educate her because she's traveling, presumably with me. Fortunately, we're all going to get typhus. Obviously is not good. I think for me, what I would do is I have some books here I'm using for learning experience. I believe we have a book, specifically this one, that gives a medium health boost. I will keep that equipped. You see, I now went from being poor health to being fine health, even with typhus, and being 64 years old. So I use that to keep myself alive, no longer have typhus. My new young daughter is curious, which unfortunately is opposed to martial education, but I'm still going to make her martial, given that we have an excellent tutor, all my skills, the fact that my character's a genius, that we sent her to university and so forth. We should be able to overcome the penalty from her being curious and still have her become a 4-star martial character, hopefully. See this Orthodox peasant rebellion can fire at any point now. Like before, would want to have it fire. Obviously, we are going to kill them all. I'm sure my brother and others can be good generals here and wipe out all these peasants while I continue on my pilgrimage. I can certainly manage things from my pilgrimage. We will split my army into 4. Send those out to where the peasants are. See, our vassals are helping as well. So I think this peasant rebellion will be brought under control quite quickly. More and more lifestyle experience from hitting these points of interest. Looks like a lot of the peasants are boarding boats. Not sure where they're going to be going. Decision to get gold.